to do that. Mr. Woodall, do you seek time?
Mr. Chairman, I do.
The gentleman's recognized.
It is no wonder that Congress gets held in such low regard when members of this body seem to hold it in as much contempt as our constituency does. I have listened carefully to what my friends have said here today. My friends have expressed concern that this is a select committee that's going to go on indefinitely. And so the chairman has responded that this committee is not going to go on indefinitely. It's only authorized through the end of this Congress. And folks said, but wait, it wasn't that it was going to go on indefinitely, it's that it's going to be able to spend unlimited sums. And the answer from the chairman was, no, it's actually not going to be able to spend unlimited sums. It's only going to be able to spend those dollars that are appropriated through the ledge branch appropriations. There are serious questions that have to be asked, and there are serious, thoughtful answers that are provided. And to suggest that the investigation into how we can prevent this tragedy from happening again, I read from HRES 567. Select Committee is authorized and directed to conduct a full and complete investigation and study and issue a final report of its findings regarding all policies and decisions and activities that contributed to the attacks, as well as those that affected the ability of the United States to prepare for the attacks. Who's opposed to that? Who is the member on this committee who is opposed to finding out what contributed to those attacks and what prevented us from responding? I dare say there's not a member on this committee that understands the United States force structure in Africa and what our response time is to crises in locations in which there is not a domestic military presence to protect our personnel. I happen to think that's worth figuring out. I happen to think that's worth doing better next time. I happen to think that is worth us getting an answer to. This committee is not authorized to do anything that our current committee structure is not authorized to do. But what it is concentrating those responsibilities into one. If you go to the Select Committee on Intelligence today, you'll find work being done on Benghazi. If you go to the Oversight and Government Reform, you'll find work being done on Benghazi. To suggest that this is some sort of political episode that's being rushed through at the last minute, Frank Wolf introduced legislation to craft this Select Committee in January of 2013. The rush to judgment that folks are accusing this committee of being a part of, the rush to create political whirlwind, started in January of 2013. This absolutely outrageous idea that has absolutely no merit whatsoever, as my friends suggest, this bill is co-sponsored by 192 of our fellow colleagues. January 2013, 192 of our colleagues have co-sponsored the resolution, and as Mr. Cole noted earlier, the Speaker resisted. The leadership of this House has done everything they can to protect and preserve the current jurisdiction of committees and resist the creation of a Select Committee despite the encouragement of 192 members of this body. And it is only because, again, and I speak with the frustration of someone who serves on the committee and only wants the truth. I don't have an agenda. I candidly, my friend from Florida, I take offense when he suggests that this is somehow about impeaching President Obama. That's not part of my agenda. I do have an agenda of the truth. I say to my friend to even lodge that suggestion. My friend says he knows Trey Gowdy and he knows he's a man of integrity. My friend says he knows the folks on this committee, and that when they were in charge of the NRCC, that certainly would not have been their purpose. If we continue to hold ourselves in contempt, I promise you we can share that emotion with the rest of the country. We can do that. But that is not what this is.
Will the gentleman yield?
Be happy to yield to my friend.
First of all, let me just say for the record, since Frank Wolf introduced this bill a long time ago, a lot has been done. I mean, the State Department has taken a lot of measures to try to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Our Congress has been told that we need to step up and provide necessary money for security. But I think going back to what Mr. Hastings was saying, this is the stuff that I have to tell you, that if you were in our seats and you were reading this stuff, I think you would feel the same way. Reuters reported, this is a quote, but Republican political officials say Benghazi is a subject of intense interest for their party's conservative base of support who are likely voters in November. We're going to use every opportunity we can to highlight it, said Republican National Committee spokeswoman Kristen Kukowski. I mean, this fundraising appeal is not just one kind of outlier. I mean, there are quotations from members of this House, from members of the Republican Party, from fundraisers, where this is being exploited. So I'm sorry if you think that we're overreacting here, but all indications are that this thing is politically charged. Last thing we need is another witch hunt.
Reclaiming my time, I don't minimize my friend's concerns. I don't minimize those concerns at all. But I happen to be one of those members who was briefed by the administration in the 10 days following this tragedy in Benghazi. And I know that my friend believes, when this administration promised to be the most open and transparent administration in the history of this country, that he took the president at his word in the same way that I took the president at his word. And to be on a committee of jurisdiction with subpoena power who still doesn't have all the documents and information that we require 18 months after a tragedy involving the deaths of Americans, I would hope my friend is equally outraged at that. The tale in this town is nobody goes to jail for the crime, they go to jail for the cover-up, right? Saving face in this town seems to be an incredibly important pursuit for so many. My constituents just want the truth. They just want the truth. And they'll be happy to yield to my friend.
Who is about the business of saving face, in your view?
There is the death of 4 American citizens.
Understood.
That we would have desperately wanted to prevent. We had testimony in the Oversight and Government Reform Committee of special operators in tears because they said what allows them to go out and do the superhuman things that they do, to take the extraordinary risks that they take, is that they know that no matter how bad it gets, Mr. Hastings, if they can just hang on for one more second, somebody's coming for them. Somebody's coming for them. No matter how bad it gets, if I can hang on for one more second, America's coming for me. Well, we weren't able to come for folks in this case. Now, I'm sure there are folks in the country who say we were derelict in some way and didn't come for folks. And there are folks in the country who say no matter how hard we tried, we just didn't have resources in the right place, we couldn't come for folks. And there are folks who would say what was going on in Benghazi was a different geopolitical circumstance than any other place that we have personnel, and we just weren't adequately prepared to come for folks. Whatever the answer to that is, the family members deserve it. The American people deserve it. But sharing those answers, we didn't have equipment where we needed it. We prioritized X instead of Y. We cut corners on embassy security because we were in budget cut times. Whatever those answers are, they're going to be an emotional burden to the folks who made the decisions where lives were lost. But we can learn from those decisions, and we can be better. We can keep it from happening again. We can't bring Ambassador Stevens back, but we can keep it from happening again. It should be of concern to everyone in this body if the Oversight and Government Reform Committee tells you that it is seeking information that it still has not found 18 months later. Right? There is no excuse in our government for Article 1, who is required to do oversight over Article 2, not to be able to get the information it needs in that period of time. And of course, it's not just Benghazi. Right, the list goes on and on. Right, we're doing Lois Lerner this week. The president's on television saying there wasn't a smidgen of corruption. We've got folks pleading the fifth because they don't want to talk about what went on there. The American people are confused. If it doesn't come up in your districts, I can't imagine why, in the same way that you apparently can't imagine why it comes up regularly in mine. Folks just want answers. I don't have any idea.
Well, if you would just yield.
Be happy to yield to my friend.
I know why they come up in your district. And I know why they come up in Dr. Fox's district. Because a substantial number of people are oriented to listen to the echo chamber that allows for that to happen. In my congressional district, they don't hear that same echo.
Or reclaiming my time.
I look at Fox and I listen to
Reclaiming my time.
Yeah.
What may very well happen in your district is there's a culture of forgiveness, or a culture of being uninterested in finding that particular answer because you'd rather find another answer. To suggest that my constituency is only concerned about embassy security and the lives of our military personnel and our State Department personnel who serve overseas because they listen to the Fox echo chamber is insulting to the moms and the dads who have sons and daughters serving in harm's way, and I know that's not what the gentleman intended. I know that's not what he intended.
Mr. Woodall, would you yield to me for just one point I want to make as quickly as I can, because I've spent time here. But I'm very troubled by the kind of witnesses that have been called while this has been going on. I'm very concerned about the person who just recently testified, a colonel, who said that so much more could be done, and the chair of the Armed Services Committee, a Republican, said that this man was not even in the chain of command and knew nothing about it. Laura Logan apparently has lost her job on 60 Minutes because she brought up another man who talked for 15 or 20 minutes about what he did that night in Benghazi and turned out not to be there. One of the things that concerns me so much is the quality and the caliber of the people who have been brought before the Congress of the United States, apparently unchecked, to even make sure they were in town that night, and telling this that adds to the lore of what's going on there, which, as Mr. Hastings so eloquently pointed out, has to be so painful for the family members of these 4 people who died. In the name of mercy, we should let them have some peace.
Reclaiming my time, and I
thank you. I appreciate your yielding. Thank you very much.
I understand the heart with which the ranking member is speaking, but I heard 2 things from you. I heard, on the one hand, I wish we could have higher quality witnesses, and I heard in previous statement that you thought we'd already gathered all of the information that there
is. You misheard me. I didn't wish we had higher caliber. I'm deploring the fact that we did not. I'm accustomed, as a member of Congress for over 20 years, the caliber of witnesses who come before the House of Representatives are going to tell us the truth when they're sworn, right? This didn't happen.
We've been having a lot of that on the OGR.
And that's very troubling to me, and I just see a select committee spending endless amounts of money and going on for who knows how long, parading any Tom, Dick, and Harry before it, who apparently has never been out of the United States, perhaps, telling us what happened that night in Benghazi. Well, and I will tell you right now that I think the American public is sick to death of that.
With all due respect to my friend, it wasn't a colonel, it was a general. He wasn't in the United States, he was in Europe, and he is absolutely a high-ranking military member who was in charge of monitoring the traffic that went on that night. And to suggest
you're not talking about the same one.
Well, because I was in the hearing. And I listened to Chairman McKeon's response afterwards. What I would just say to my friend is, I understand the concern. And there's a legitimate concern, but let's not make it a concern that it's not. It wasn't that someone was in the United States and they were a low-ranking military person. It was a general who was on duty.
Allow me to quote the chair of the Armed Services Committee. Brigadier General Lovell did not serve in a capacity that gave him reliable insight into operational options available to commanders during the attack. Nor did he offer specific courses of action not taken. McKeon added, the Armed Services Committee has interviewed more than a dozen witnesses in the operational chain of command that night, yielding thousands of pages of transcripts, emails, and other documents. We have no evidence that Department of State official delayed the decision to employ what few resources DOD had available to respond. Let me say again, that is from Chairman McKeon,
Yes.
the Republican chairman of the Armed Services Committee. Absolutely. But this is a continuation here today of what we went through yesterday with the Lois Lerner thing. No. I think that committee has embarrassed you people to death. And my sense of it, the cynical person would think that you're getting Trey Gowdy to come in here and try to clean that up.
Reclaiming
and I bet you don't put ISA on that committee.
Reclaiming my time, having good information is important. I appreciate you coming back and putting out the good information.
They are able to get that for me.
As do I.
I did through it yesterday. Remember, Mr. Isa said he didn't say anything about giving out those documents, and we were able to refute the fact that he had.
The gentleman controls the time.
We have an opportunity to get answers to all the questions that I seek, to correct the mistakes that have been pointed out by the minority. And we have a chance to do it.
Excuse me. Gentlemen, suspend. I'd like to ask the committee to please remember that we have a stenographer who is attempting to properly and professionally do his job. That means that we need to stay within a little bit tighter circumstance where he can accurately transcribe properly and allowing a person to talk. I do acknowledge and believe that what you're doing is within the sense of what is fair. I would simply ask that we move one person and yield and let another person not speaking over each other. I would like to ask that for the committee. The committee may continue, but allow the stenographer to do his job. The gentleman's recognized.
I thank the chairman. I have no doubt that with a little collective effort, we can tarnish the efforts of this committee, this select committee, in ways that will prevent it from ever finding any closure for families or the American people. I have no doubt that we could commit ourselves to that and we could be successful doing it. I just don't know why we would. I just don't know why we would. We have an opportunity. We have an opportunity under leadership that I know everybody on this panel has great respect for. Under leadership that really does want answers and it does not matter what the answers turn out to be. Folks just want answers and closure and the ability to move on. I wish to goodness we'd been able to do it in the Oversight and Government Reform Committee. I, too, have resisted this effort. I'm not a co-sponsor of that resolution. I didn't want to select a committee. I wanted us to be able to do it in our committees of jurisdiction, and we haven't been able to make it happen. It is a great regret of mine, but it's a regret that I am glad we're taking steps to correct today. Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Woodall, just briefly.
Be happy to yield to my friend.
I propose that on the select committee, that all of the testimony that has gone on, all of the hearings that have gone on, how do they fit into the scheme? How are they integrated into the scheme as you perceive it? Or does the committee start from scratch?
I would not presume to know the answer to that. I would presume that folks with some degree of expertise on this issue would be named to the committee. I would even expect there to be some staff overlap where folks from OGR or folks from intelligence were recruited to be a part of this. It's way above my my pay grade, but I do know that there is no stain of partisanship on this new committee except for the one that we began to put on it today. It is, in fact, a blank slate, and we can choose to draw on it as we see fit. And members will have to make their own determination about how that happens. But again, to take this opportunity and flush it with partisanship seems to me to be as offensive as if the majority had crafted this committee from a place of partisanship. Be happy to yield to my friend.
Well, look, I'm not questioning your motives and your intentions here, but again, to try to say that this is not political. Again, it's very hard to believe. You have a member on the Oversight Committee right now who's running TV commercials about Benghazi as he's running for Senate, member of that committee. I mean, so so we got NRCC, we got RNC, we got members of the committee running ads that are exploiting this tragedy. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, this is, if you want to avoid the partisanship, you ought to do what the majority leader wants to do. Let's have an evenly split committee. Let's work on this jointly together, and put this behind us. But that's not what we're doing. So that's my reservation. I appreciate the gentleman for yielding.
I was happy to yield, and I know the sincerity with which my friend speaks, though I must remind him that of the 7 select committees that have been created in my adult lifetime, all had a slant towards the majority because they were taking responsibility from normal sitting committees and putting into a subcommittee, with the exception of the voting irregularities committee that Democrats established to investigate Democrats. And I think in the name of getting a good discussion out of that, they decided to
John Boehner suggested that.
Well, I have no doubt, and I have no doubt, and I suspect whoever was the minority leader suggested it in all of the other select committees too, to no avail. But slash it. And secondly, Benghazi is a public policy position, right? What goes on with military assets around the world is a question of public policy. Embassy security, a question of public policy. Are we going to put embassies in dangerous locations where they cannot be defended by local personnel? A question of public policy. And I don't believe that my friend would characterize all the Democratic candidates who ran advertisements on the war in Iraq and Afghanistan that talked about our dead from overseas who discussed a very legitimate public policy question of the war. I don't think he would say that those Democratic candidates were exploiting our war dead. I would not say that about those candidates. I would say they were trying to have a very important discussion about a very difficult topic. And this is an important discussion, and this is a difficult topic. But I got to tell you, it could have gone 2 ways today. Trey Gowdy, the presumptive chairman of this committee, could have said, NRCC is doing the right thing and I'm behind them 100%, but he didn't. He said they're doing exactly the wrong thing, and I call on them to stop. Now, I can't predict where this committee ends up, but I've got to believe we all agree that that was a better starting point than where we could have been, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful to Trey for that, and candidly, those are the kind of men and women that I believe I serve with here, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back his time.